You're here. Welcome to the Masterminding Success podcast. They say if you want to be successful in business and in life, then surround yourself with successful people. So pull up a seat. The mastermind is about to begin.
Hey, glad you could join us for another episode of the Masterminding Success podcast. We're your hosts, Keith Wheeler
and Nuria Corby.
And what are we talking about today, Nuria?
Oh, today is quite a controversial subject, and that's KDP terminations. And I'm sure we're all a little bit frightened of the KDP terminations because you hear a lot about them. And I imagine you've heard about them too as well on your Facebook group and all the other ways we get to hear about it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a hot topic right now. And one thing, if you've been in this industry as long as Nuri and I have, is that the KDP terminations, they tend to come in like these groups. You know what I mean? Like you'll get a whole bunch of them, and then it'll kind of die out, and then maybe a year or two later there'll be another swarm of them. And it's something that you need to be aware of. And it's something that, you and I were talking, they don't seem to be going away anytime soon. And I know it's a pretty hot topic, and a lot of people's businesses are being affected by it. So I think it was only fitting for us to talk about it.
Well, it's worrying because people, you hear about it so often. I have probably every week somebody says in my group, my account has been terminated. And of course it worries people. It worries me as well. But right. I find that when you dig deeper, there's usually a reason. I think what we're frightened of is that it seems that they're closing accounts for no reason. Mm-hmm. And actually, if you dig a little bit deeper, there is always a reason. There is a reason. You might not agree with the reason, but right. There's usually a reason why they close an account. And I'm not saying that you are or we are immune to it, because it could happen to any of us. We could just make a mistake, or we could overlook something. And the other thing is Amazon changes their rules quite often as well. And so it's very easy to miss something. And I really don't blame anybody when I see, my account has been terminated. Usually other people are very quick to go on the attack and say bye-bye, which I find extremely rude when people do that, because it could happen to any of us. And I think you have to really look at it and see, well, why has this account been terminated? And I think in some cases, the reason is obvious why it's been terminated, and the person just doesn't know. But yeah, there's always a reason. What do you think about that? Are we disagreeing for once or not?
No, I agree. I think there are three main people, if you will, scenarios where their accounts get terminated. And if you hear my lawn guy, I apologize. But so the first group are those people that knowingly break KDP's terms of service. Like they know they're doing it, but they're trying to work the system. You've got the people that are unknowingly breaking the terms of service. And then you got that small sliver of innocent people that just kind of got brought, caught in the middle of it all. I will say that group is a lot smaller than what many people tend to want to believe. And from my experience with the people that I've talked to, the innocent bystanders, the one that just got accidentally done, all of them have gotten reinstated. Mm-hmm. And so, it's now there could be some that don't, that slip through the cracks. But majority of the time, it really comes down to the terms of service. And like you said, the fact that KDP and other platforms, not just KDP, they're just kind of the, because they're connected to Amazon, they're the 1,000-pound gorilla in the room. But they do change those terms of service. Things that they didn't focus on before, they do. And so when you first join whatever platform, make sure that you read the terms of service. I mean, you're clicking the button saying that you agree to it, that you've read and agree. So you might as well. And then I would say at least once a year, if not once every 6 months, go back and check them, see if anything's been updated.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, because I actually have a slightly different point of view, because I think that most people that get their accounts terminated are in some way innocent, because I think there are very few people that know they're doing something wrong.
I agree.
That's just, it serves them right, really. But I
Right.
think in most cases, people are genuinely innocent in the sense that they just overlooked something. Or, I remember when I first started, I used to look on Amazon itself and see, how did they write their titles? How did they write their subtitles? What did they do with their description? And
Right.
I just copied what other people were doing. And I didn't think that that was maybe the wrong thing to do, because there are a lot of books on Amazon that are completely wrong in their title and in their subtitle, and how they're listed on Amazon, but they've slipped through the net. They've been accepted by Amazon, and then later on they're flagged up by Amazon, and and actually there was one case where I had made, this was back in 2020, I made a diary and I did the title wrong. I think it was, I said, I had 2020 diary on the title, on the front cover. But the metadata in Amazon, when I uploaded it, I said that the title was, what was it? It was something floral, something to do with flowers, floral 2020 diary. So there was just one word that was, and it went through, and I sold that diary in 2020. And it was only like a few months ago where Amazon wrote to me and said, this book has been blocked because the title doesn't, basically they were saying that that's not what it says on your cover. But nothing happened. It got blocked, and I said, my apologies, blah, blah. And I unpublished because it was an old diary. But even if it had been a new one, I would have unpublished. And then that's all that Amazon wants us to do. They want us to rectify our mistake, so, and it was fine. So I saw that Amazon had a point, that was the right, I shouldn't have uploaded it like that. But it was one of the first ones I did. I didn't know, so I try to teach people, don't do this, don't do that, because I know I've done things like that, and I'm quite tolerant with this. I'm not the kind of person to say, oh, well, then that's your bad luck. If you get terminated, that's your own fault, because we all make mistakes. It's just, I can't believe the rudeness some people have when
I agree.
They've just lost their account, which was probably an income for them, or a chance of an income for them. So
I've run into that too. And I know I said, one of the groups is people that are knowingly breaking the terms of service, and unfortunately those people are out there, and those people, you're going to get those people no matter what industry you're in. But I do agree that that's a small fraction of the people that are in the business, and those are the kind of things that make me smile, knowing that most people are trying to do things the right way, and I agree that I think that the largest group are those people that are unknowingly breaking the terms of service, whether it's because they didn't read the terms of service at all, they didn't read it fully, things changed, but also there are people out there like you and I that have YouTube channels, and we're teaching people, we're trying to teach people the right way. Just like there are those people that are knowingly breaking terms of service, there are those channels out there that are teaching ways that might have worked, back in 2014, 2015. And either they're still teaching it, or most of the time they're just old channels, that still have their stuff up there. They're not relevant anymore, but they're still up there. And so, it's something that we as consumers and we as creators need to kind of, keep it that, in the back of our minds is, one, again, read the terms of service and, check for updates. But also, if you're getting advice from somebody, if it's a YouTube video, look and see how old it is. you know, looking. And then I typically, if it's a channel that I'm just now stumbling upon, the other thing I'll do is I'll go to the videos tab and I'll look and see how recent their last video was. If their last video was 3 years ago, I'm probably going to take everything I learned from that channel with a grain of salt, because, even if they're still doing it now, they're still in this business, they're not still doing videos on it. So, it's not, that channel's not going to be as relevant to me.
Absolutely. And even with our videos, what we talked about 3 years ago is probably old now. It's probably not how it is done now. So yeah, definitely good advice there to watch recent videos but more than anything, just follow the Amazon rules, read up on them, because I don't know many people that look on the Amazon help pages, for example, because the kind of questions that we get, and I'm sure you get them too, well, they couldn't have looked on the Amazon help page because it's explained in great detail there. So I think that, really people need to be proactive and really have an inquisitive mind and find out for themselves, because if you're just relying on what somebody said on YouTube, that could be old, that could be wrong. It could be, even my channel, don't take everything that I say as gospel, because I could be wrong. I'm just normal like anybody else. So always double check what you're doing and check with Amazon, because it's their platform, and that is where you get your or where you should get your information from, and get your updated information. I mean, I try and update people as much as I can, but I'm not superhuman. I might miss something, so. And that's why I said it could happen to any of us. We're not immune from it. And I feel very bad for people who do get their accounts closed when it's something that I see is really, they just made a mistake. They weren't aware. And I know some people say, well, it's not an excuse to not be aware, because you should read all the rules and regulations. But let's be honest, who has read all the rules and regulations? I try to, but I'm sure I've missed something somewhere. So, we just need to be very careful. And I think that if you try and play by Amazon's rules, they're usually quite good at giving you another chance. Like I said, I mean, that was the first time Amazon ever said anything to me about one of my books. And it wasn't even no warning or anything. They would just said, update your book, which I did. So I unpublished it because you can't update the titles. I don't know what they wanted me to do. But, you just do what you can to comply with their rules. And the other thing is, I think, if you do get terminated, what do you do? Well, I would say communicate with Amazon. Absolutely. Try and speak to somebody that's a real person, rather than, because I know Amazon send a lot of automated messages and they can sound a bit robotic sometimes. So if you can speak to a real person or escalate it to somebody who can help you further, then that's a good idea. What tips do you have for people who have been terminated?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think one of the big things is how you communicate. If you immediately sound defensive, angry, or whatever, then you're not going to get a good response back. You're asking them for a favor. You're asking them to bend the rules for you, to give you a second chance or whatever. You don't ask that argumentatively, and well, at least not if you're expecting the answer to be yes. But one of the things I definitely suggest that you do is check and make sure that you have KDP support whitelisted in your emails, because I know a lot of people who've said, I've got my account terminated and I didn't get an email warning or anything about that. Well, first of all, if you read the terms of service, they don't need to send you a warning, but they typically do. They typically will send, a lot of the people that I've talked to about it that have had their accounts terminated, it's a case like yours where, they blocked a book basically. But what happens is is for whatever reason, this person didn't get that email. It was in their spam folder, their junk folder, whatever. And so they happen to be in KDP and they noticed that this was unpublished. And so they publish it again. Well, then it looks to KDP like you're going against what they said. They're telling you that you're in your case, your title is wrong. And then you're saying, I'm going to republish it anyway. Well, then they're going to terminate your account because they're like, if I'm telling you it's wrong and you're still not listening to me, you're trying to work around what we've, our rules, we're going to terminate your account. So I've seen that on a lot of cases. But also, a lot of times when people say, I didn't get it, I didn't get an email or whatever, there are a lot of updates to their terms of service that they sometimes will email out. So again, you really want to make sure that you have them in your emails, that that they don't go to your spam folder. And if you happen to find one that does, there's an option in most, it's easier in like Google and Gmail, but either way, there should be a way to say this is safe, this is a good email address, and just it's called whitelisting them, and just whitelist them, and that way those emails should come through from that point on.
That's actually a really good tip, because that could have happened to me. What if I hadn't seen that email? And then I wouldn't have responded. I might have seen, oh, that book is in draft or block or whatever it was. I'd republished it, and then like you said, that looks like you're trying to be to game the system kind of. Right. But you have to, definitely, really good tip is to whitelist your emails. I agree with that. And I think it's one of those things, like you said earlier as well, Amazon don't have to notify you. You actually, when you agreed to their terms, there is somewhere in there where it says, they can terminate your account for and not give a reason, for whatever reason they see fit. And they don't owe us anything. I've seen lots of people become really angry at Amazon for blocking one of their books or for suspending their account. And suspension means there's a chance that you might get it back. So don't be too antagonistic with them, and don't be rude to them, which I've seen, where they've made comments that I would think, well, if that's your attitude, then maybe that's the problem, because I understand you can get angry, but they can help you, so don't get angry with them, because they're the ones that will decide whether you can get your account back. And try and talk to them in a polite way and explain why you didn't realize this was a mistake, or explain what your point of view is on that, and ask them, what you can do about it in a polite way. I think that's really important, because if you're going in there all guns blazing and calling them names, that's not going to help you. Even if you're angry, try and think about it, take a deep breath, and then write to them, because that's really important. Amazon have no, I've seen people saying things like, how can they do that? I will take them to court and things like that, because they've destroyed my business. You've agreed to their terms. There's nothing you can do in that sense, in legal terms, but you can maybe talk to them and see if they can reinstate you and be polite about it. That's the only advice I can give. And I think somebody else said also, I don't know if this applies to low content books particularly, but if you have non-fiction or fiction or anything like that, you can join the Alliance of Independent Authors, or the authors, I can't remember what it stands for. We call it ALI, and they've helped a lot of people as far as I know. So it's always good to be part of a bigger group, or an alliance, or some kind of body that supports authors, and maybe they can give you some advice. But I've heard that they have dealt with things like that as well. Have you heard anything like that?
Yeah, Ally's great. And you were actually right. It's the Alliance of Independent Authors. You had it right the first time.
Okay.
And
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, they're great. And yeah, they even if you're not a member, you can still go to their site, and they've got watchdog lists where, if you're wondering, should I work with this company or whatever, that's a great place, a great resource for independent authors. yeah, it's absolutely a great opportunity. And yeah, I definitely always send people that way. If you have questions, I have heard of them helping people, in that instance. They're known, they've been around for years, so they're known by KDP and other places like that, like Ingram Spark. They work hand in hand with Ingram Spark in particular. But yeah, that's a great option.
Yeah, I think it always helps because sometimes when we're on KDP, we also don't know who to turn to. If something like that happens, oh my God, who do I speak to? It's not so easy to speak to KDP, and just to have something or somebody that can listen to you at least and maybe give you some advice and calm you down, I think that would probably help a lot of people. So it is what it is. Unfortunately, these things can happen, and that's why I always say, it's a good idea to diversify your income and have different income streams just in case something like this happens, because this can happen in any business. Any business, if you have all your eggs in one basket, that's not necessarily the best way. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but it could happen to any of us. So
yeah, I've had people reach out and they say, I was making X amount of dollars. I was doing really, really well. And one thing I always tell people, and I try to tell them when they're early on in their career in this business, is start selling them on your website. You might not be getting a lot of people to your website right now, but if your books pick up, and they take off and you get repeat readers and things like that, it could turn into something where in your book, you direct them to your particular website, and then they can start buying them from your website. And that helps in so many different ways. One, they then become literally your customers as opposed to Amazon's customers. So, with KDP, we're playing in their sandbox. They can always, pull that rug out from under us. They can always change their terms of service. They can do that. And so if it's your website, you have way more control over it. And there's way to encourage readers to go to buy your next book on your website, because you could do things like have lower pricing, discounts on your website, because if it's on your website, you're getting a higher royalty anyway, so you can actually lower the price. I've known people who every month, because if they have a bigger back catalog, every month they would give away a free ebook with a purchase. And so it's they would, if you purchase something this month, you get such and such a book ebook for free. And so again, getting people are always going to shop on Amazon. It's a huge platform. There's a great amount of traffic there. But if you can start being proactive in your business and start driving some traffic, as much traffic as you can, to your own website, that can only benefit you.
Absolutely. I mean, this is why I keep on about branding your books, because that's part of it. Yeah, it's really essential that people do that. And it's not just, because a lot of people think, oh, all the account terminations are for low content books. It's not just low content books. It's authors that write or that have written for a while, and they can suddenly get shut down as well. So we're not immune to things like that. And it's a good idea, A, to prevent it in the first place, but B, to also make sure that you've got other income streams lined up to safeguard your income, to make sure that you can keep going if the worst happens. So
it definitely is something that you want to be as proactive as possible.
Yeah, and I think that's another topic for another podcast, to publish away from Amazon as well, and B, to do other things that are connected to your business that you can create an income with as well. So
yeah, absolutely. Diversify.
Lots to talk about. Yes.
Well, this has been another great mastermind, Nuria. Once again, a huge thank you to all our listeners and viewers who came to tag along. If you enjoyed today's mastermind, please consider following or subscribing to the podcast, and maybe even leaving us a review and let us know what you thought. Until next week, I'm Keith Wheeler.
And I'm Nuria Colby.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining the Mastermind today. Be sure to follow the podcast on your platform of choice and tell a friend who would enjoy it too. Your support is greatly appreciated. This has been the Masterminding Success Podcast.